I put down $25,000 for a family getaway to the Florida Keys, envisioning priceless memories with my family. But standing in the airport, my son told me, "I didn't get you a ticket. You should just go home." They had orchestrated this from the start, planning to discard me like an afterthought. 2 weeks later, they came back, their jaws dropping, when they saw a man in a sharp suit standing with me, a man who was about to dismantle their future. "Dad, we have a problem." Ethan's words sliced through the chaos of the terminal. I froze, my carry-on bag bumping my knee as I stared at the American Airlines check-in desk ahead, swarming with families managing oversized bags and beach gear. "What kind of problem?" I asked, a knot already forming in my gut from his tone. He avoided my gaze, focusing instead on the departure's screen, his hands buried in his pockets. "I didn't get your ticket." The statement hovered in the stale air. All around us, travelers hurried by, boarding passes in hand, their cheerful talk of sunshine and beaches feeling like a personal insult. "You didn't get it?" My voice sounded weaker than I felt. "Ethan, we've been organizing this trip for 3 months. I know. He glanced at me, but only for a second. "There was just a lot to handle, and work has been insane. I gave you $25,000. The figure felt obscene on my tongue. "For everyone, the whole family, right? And we appreciate it, Dad, we really do." Ethan checked his watch, then looked toward the gates. "But the issue is, the plane is about to board." I started walking toward the check-in desk anyway, pulling my bag behind me. A wheel snagged on the floor, yanking my arm, but I kept going. This was solvable. It had to be. "Excuse me," I said to the woman at the counter. Her uniform was a crisp navy blue, her smile practiced. "I need to see what flights are available to Key West today." She tapped at her keyboard. "Of course, sir. What's the name on the booking?" "Arthur Miller, but it seems there's an issue with my ticket." More typing. A short pause. Her professional smile wavered. "I'm not finding a reservation under that name, sir. Are you certain it was booked with American Airlines?" My chest felt tight. It must be there. My family. I glanced over for Ethan, but he had drifted away, now pacing anxiously near the security entrance. "Let me try a wider search," the agent said. "What were your travel dates?" "Today? Right now. My son and his family should have their tickets all ready." She nodded, her fingers a blur on the keyboard, the screen's glow reflecting in her glasses. "I do see a booking for Ethan Miller. Party of 4 leaving at 4:15, but there's no Arthur Miller on this reservation." The world seemed to shift on its axis. "That's not possible. Please check again." "I've checked twice, sir. Would you like me to see about standby availability?" A flicker of hope. "Yes, anything. I'm sorry, but we're completely sold out today. There's a big music festival in Key West." "What about tomorrow?" "First class. I don't care what it costs." Ethan was suddenly at my side, his hand on my arm. "Dad, we have to talk." I shrugged him off. "Not right now. We're solving this." "No, we're not." His grip grew firmer, pulling me from the counter. "This isn't going to happen." The agent watched us, her concern growing. Other people were starting too. "Look." A child pointed at my bag, which had fallen over when Ethan grabbed me. "What do you mean it's not going to happen?" I righted my luggage, my hands trembling. "There has to be another airline, another flight." "Dad, listen." Ethan's voice had a sharp, unfamiliar edge. "The vacation is starting now. My family's already at the gate. Then we find another way for me to get there?" "No." The word was flat and final. "We don't." The departure board changed, updating flight information. The 4:15 American flight to Key West now flashed final boarding call in bright red. "Ethan, you're scaring me." "What is going on?" He looked at his watch again, this time with more impatience. "What's going on is that you need to go home, Dad. We'll figure out the vacation." "Figure it out?" My voice cracked. "I paid for all of it. The resort, the car, the activities for the kids, and we're grateful for that. But standing here arguing isn't doing any good." The terminal's air conditioning was humming, but I felt flushed and dizzy. None of this made sense. 3 months of organizing, $25,000, family dinners spent talking about jet skiing and sunset barbecues, and now Ethan was treating me like an obstacle. "Just go home," he said again, already moving toward security. "We'll call you when we get there." It was then that I saw it in his eyes. Not stress about a forgotten ticket, not remorse over a mistake. It was relief. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. Ethan turned and walked away, vanishing into the crowd as if he had been rehearsing this exact moment. The American Airlines counter was my only point of stability in a tilting room. I went back to the same agent, who recognized me. "Sir, did you manage to sort things out with your family? Actually, I need you to look up something for me." My voice was surprisingly steady. "That booking for Ethan Miller. When was it made?" She hesitated, looking toward the security line where Ethan had disappeared. I'm not really supposed to share booking information, but her fingers found the keyboard. It says here, it was booked 6 weeks ago. Party of 4. 2 adults, 2 children. 6 weeks ago, not 3 months ago when we started the planning. Not last week when Ethan said he was finalizing the details. 6 weeks ago when he had already determined I was not coming. Were there any changes made to add another passenger? No, sir. The reservation hasn't been altered since it was first booked. My knees felt weak. I held onto the counter, the cool metal a stark contrast to my clammy hands. What about other airlines? Anything to Key West today, tomorrow, this week? She searched, her expression becoming more sympathetic with every click. I'm sorry, it's the music festival. United has a wait list of over 50 people. Delta is booked solid until next Wednesday. Next Wednesday. The words were like ash in my mouth. By then, the trip would be half finished. There is one option, she said quietly. JetBlue has a late-night flight with 2 stops. It gets in on Thursday afternoon, but it's very expensive for a last-minute booking. How expensive? $1,900. I started to reach for my wallet, then stopped. I could see the gate for the American flight in the distance. Ethan would be there by now, probably texting Chloe, telling her the problem was handled. The problem being me. "Sir," the agent's voice seemed distant. He knew, I murmured. More to myself than to her. He knew the whole time. "I'm so sorry." I looked at her compassionate face, her real concern for a confused old man, and felt a sudden wave of embarrassment. This wasn't her issue. This was a family matter, the type of ugly secret that should be kept behind closed doors. "The flight?" I asked. "Is it still boarding?" "Final call was 10 minutes ago. They're likely closing the doors as we speak." As if on cue, an announcement crackled through the speakers. American Airlines Flight 815 to Key West is now closed for boarding. All passengers should be on board. I looked toward the gate. I could see the last few passengers hurrying down the jet bridge, kids in tow, carry-on bags rolling behind them, families on their way to a shared paradise. My phone vibrated, a text from Ethan. "Sorry, Dad, we'll call from the resort. Take care." Take care. As if I was a chore he had finally completed. "About that JetBlue flight, sir," the agent prompted gently. "Should I hold it for you while you think about it?" I stared at my phone. No real explanation, no apology, just a terse dismissal after taking $25,000 and months of my anticipation. "No," I said, putting my phone away. "No, I don't think so. Are you sure?" "I can hold it for a few minutes, I'm sure." Because in that moment, standing in the terminal amid the smells of coffee and the sounds of rolling suitcases, I understood something critical. This wasn't about a forgotten ticket or a planning mistake, or even Ethan's selfishness. This was about how they saw me, how they thought they could treat me. The departure screen updated. American Flight 815 was now listed as departed in bold black letters. Ethan and his family were in the air, likely enjoying complimentary drinks, patting themselves on the back for a vacation, well earned. I took my suitcase handle and walked to the exit. But I wasn't defeated. Not anymore. Each step away from that gate was a step toward clarity. They had made a calculation about Arthur Miller. They assumed I would just go home, maybe grumble a bit, but ultimately accept being cast aside. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. The automatic doors slid open, and I walked out into the afternoon sun, already plotting my response. Behind me, the terminal was alive with people heading to their destinations. I was heading to mine as well. It just wasn't the one they had in mind. The taxi line was longer than I'd hoped, but I didn't mind the wait. It gave me time to think, to let the chaos settle. "Where to?" the driver asked as I put my suitcase in. "The trunk." He was middle-aged and looked weary, no doubt from dealing with airport traffic all day. "Queens, Forest Hills." I got into the back seat, Ethan's pathetic text still glowing on my phone screen. As we pulled away from JFK, I looked out at the familiar cityscape of New York. The boroughs spread out before us, filled with homes where other families were likely having dinner together, sharing stories, making plans, not scheming to exclude their own father. "Tough day?" the driver asked, looking at me in the rearview mirror. "Getting tougher." I wasn't one to chat with strangers, but the anonymity of the cab felt freeing. "Ever had your own family stab you in the back?" He chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "Buddy, I've got ex-wives who've been plotting my demise for decades. Family are the ones who know exactly how to twist the knife." Twist the knife. That's precisely what it felt like. A sharp, deliberate attack aimed right at the heart. As we drove through Brooklyn, I replayed conversations from the last few months. March, when I first suggested doing something special for the grandkids, Ethan's immediate excitement. "Dad, that's a fantastic idea. Let me handle everything." April, when we gathered at Chloe's dining table, looking at resort brochures, Helen practically giddy with excitement. "Oh, Arthur, this is so generous." Frank nodding along, quieter than his wife, but seemingly on board. But now, looking back, the signs were there. The way Ethan insisted on managing all the reservations himself. Chloe's comment that I might be more comfortable in a separate cottage in case the kids were too loud. Helen's remark about how older people sometimes prefer different vacation activities. They had been preparing me for a separation all along. "You know the worst part?" I said to the driver's reflection. "What's that?" "They thought I'd just let them get away with it. Roll over and accept it. You going to prove them wrong?" I watched. The Brooklyn Bridge come into view, its cables creating intricate patterns against the sky. I'm 70 years old. I worked for 45 years as an architect. I raised a son who seems to think I'm a complete fool. But I didn't get this far by letting people walk all over me. The driver laughed. "Now you're talking." My phone vibrated again. A text from Chloe. "So sorry about the ticket mix-up, Dad Miller. We'll bring you back a nice souvenir from the Keys." A mix-up, as if it were a simple clerical error and not a calculated betrayal. I thought of the $25,000 I'd wired to Ethan's account 6 weeks ago. He'd said it was easier to book everything from one place. How easily I had trusted him, how thoroughly I had been deceived. But as we got onto the Grand Central Parkway, heading toward my quiet house in the suburbs, something shifted in me. The hurt was still raw, but beneath it, a harder resolve was forming. They wanted to treat me like a senile old man who could be pushed aside when he was no longer useful. They wanted my money without my presence. Fine. But they were about to find out that this particular old man had a few designs left to unveil. The taxi pulled into my driveway just as the sun began. To set behind the trees, the house looked just as I'd left it hours ago, tidy, quiet, ready for a week's absence. But I wasn't the same man who had locked the front door filled with excitement. "That'll be 55, the driver said. I gave him 70. Keep the change. Thanks for the chat." "Whatever you're planning," he said with a grin, "I hope they get what's coming. To them." As I watched his car drive away, I pulled out my phone and found a number I hadn't needed in months. David Vance, my lawyer. If Ethan wanted to play games with $25,000, we could play. But I had some research to do first. The key turned, in the lock with its usual click. But nothing felt the same. I pulled my suitcase inside. the wheels catching on the doormat I'd bought with Carol 20 years ago. Home! I was supposed to be packing for the Keys tonight, not unpacking from a trip to nowhere. I changed into a comfortable sweater and old corduroys, the kind Ethan always said made me look like an old professor. Tonight it felt fitting. I had some studying to do. My office was exactly as I'd left it. Carol's mahogany desk sat by the window, file cabinets neatly aligned against the wall. Everything was in order, unlike my family. The vacation folder was in the second drawer, labeled Florida 2025 in my precise handwriting. I took it out and laid the contents on the desk. 23 pages, each one a testament to my trust that had been methodically dismantled. Travel agency invoice, $25,000 wired to Ethan's account 6 weeks ago. Resort confirmation, Sunset Key Cottages, Ocean View Suites, 7 guests, 10 nights. I read the names: Ethan, Chloe, Helen, Frank, Olivia, Leo, and Carol Miller. Carol, my wife, who had been gone for 3 years. They had actually used Carol's name instead of mine. The reservation my money had paid for didn't even include me. My hand trembled as I picked up the resort brochure. Stunning sunset pictures, families splashing in turquoise water, generations gathered around tables. Everything we'd discussed. "Dad, you'll love the Ocean View suite," Ethan had promised. "The kids will make such wonderful memories," Chloe had said. All lies. I picked up the phone, not my cell, but the old landline Carol had insisted we keep. This moment required a more substantial connection. Directory assistants gave me the number for Sunset Key Cottages. Reservations. "This is Maya. How can I assist?" "You?" Her voice had that practiced, warm tone of the hospitality industry. "I need to cancel a reservation under the name Miller. Let me pull that up for you, Miller. Yes, I see a booking for 7 guests checking in tomorrow. Ocean View Suites for 10 nights. Are you sure you want to cancel? Our resort is lovely this time of year. I am absolutely sure. May I ask the reason? Perhaps I can offer an alternative. Different room types? Shorter stays? No alternatives? Cancel the entire booking." A pause. I could hear typing as she likely struggled to understand why someone would cancel such a significant booking. "Mr. Miller, I must inform you that canceling this close to your arrival date will incur substantial penalties. The total cancellation fee will be $3,500, less than I'd spend on property taxes in a year. That's acceptable." "Are you certain, sir? This is a very large reservation. Perhaps if you spoke to our manager." "Cancel it now, please. More typing, the hum of a printer. The cancellation has been processed. You will receive an email confirmation shortly. Is there anything else I can help with today?" "Actually, yes. When a party arrives tomorrow expecting to check into that reservation, what will they be told?" I would inform them that the reservation was canceled by the primary booking contact at 6:47 p.m. Eastern Time on May 15th. Perfect. Ethan would know exactly when I took action, and more importantly, he would know it was intentional. "Thank you. Maya, you've been a great help." I hung up and stared at the papers on my desk. In the corner was a framed photo from last Christmas. Ethan, Chloe, the kids, Helen, and Frank, all smiling around my tree, opening gifts I'd bought, enjoying a meal I'd paid for, all of them smiling at the generous old fool. Well, the generous part was over. Morning light came through my bedroom window differently. For the first time since we'd started planning this trip, I had slept soundly, without dreams. No stress about packing, no excitement about seeing Olivia's face when she saw the ocean, no checklists of activities for the grandkids, just peace. I showered, dressed, and went to the kitchen. The old coffee machine gurgled on the counter, filling the house with the same aroma that had greeted Carol and me for 45 years. My cell phone was charging where I'd left it. The screen showed missed calls, but I ignored it as I poured my coffee. Some conversations needed to be had on my own terms. Finally, I picked it up. 62 missed calls, all from the same Florida area code. The call log told a story. 11:47 p.m., Florida time, then 11:52, then 12:03 a.m. Every 15 minutes through the night, 4:30 a.m., 5:15, 6 hours. Ethan had been up all night. In between the calls were texts. I scrolled through them, watching his panic grow. "Dad, call me. It's urgent. The resort says you canceled everything." "Dad, this isn't funny. Call me now. The kids are crying. We have nowhere to stay. Call me." The timestamps were clear. The family had arrived at Sunset Key around 3 p.m. Florida time yesterday, 6 p.m. New York time, just as I was getting off the phone with Maya. They had walked up to that beautiful resort lobby excited and travel-weary, only to find they had no rooms. I took my coffee to the living room and sat in my favorite armchair. Outside, my neighbor walked his beagle, the same route they'd taken every morning for a decade, a normal Tuesday for everyone else. My phone buzzed. Florida number. I let it go to voicemail. "Dad, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you have to fix this." We spent the night in the hotel lobby. Helen hasn't stopped crying. "The kids have no idea what's happening. This is cruel and completely out of character for you. Call me and fix this disaster." Cruel and out of character. An interesting choice of words from a man who'd abandoned his own father at an airport. The coffee was perfect. A Colombian blend I'd ground fresh yesterday morning when I still believed in family trips and shared memories. I set the cup down and picked up my phone, dialing Ethan's Florida number. My finger paused over the call button. 6 weeks of planning. $25,000 sent without a second thought. 3 months of happy conversations about jet skis and barbecues, all of it a lie designed to exclude me. Ethan wanted to talk now, after 62 missed calls and a voicemail that blamed me for everything. Perfect. I had a few things I wanted to say, too. I pressed call. Ethan answered instantly. "Dad, finally? What is going on? The resort says you canceled our entire booking." His voice was so loud I had to pull the phone from my ear. In the background, I heard Chloe's voice, something about a total nightmare, and one of the kids was crying. "Well, hello, Ethan. How's the vacation so far? Don't play these games with me. We have nowhere to go. Do you realize what you've done?" I reached for a notepad, the one Carol always kept by the phone. Some things needed to be documented. Actually, I realize it perfectly. "Tell me, when you decided to leave me at the airport yesterday, where did you expect me to spend my vacation?" A pause. The background noise quieted. "Dad, that's completely different. This involves innocent children." "Were there innocent children involved when you deliberately cut me out of the trip after taking my $25,000? That's not the same." I wrote down the time. 8:03 a.m. New York, 5:03 a.m. Florida. Ethan sounded exhausted. "Help me understand how it's different, son." "The difference is we're stuck in another state with no money and kids who are confused and upset." "Interesting. Yesterday you told me to just go home when I was stuck in an airport. What's changed?" Chloe's voice cut in. "Ethan, tell him about the credit cards." "Credit cards?" I jotted it down. "Dad, we can't afford another resort. Everything is booked for the festival anyway." We put the entire trip on credit, assuming we'd pay it off with, well, under different circumstances. "You mean assuming you'd pay it off with my money while I sat at home like an old piece of furniture?" "Stop being so dramatic. This isn't about you anymore. It's about Helen and the kids. It became about me when you took my money for a vacation you never intended for me to be on." Ethan's tone hardened. "Fine. You want to be difficult? When I get back to New York, you are going to regret this. You think you can control this family with your money?" I wrote that down verbatim. "You're going to regret this." "Ethan, are you threatening me?" "I'm telling you that actions have consequences." "Old man, old man." I noted that as well. You're absolutely right about consequences. "For instance, the consequence of betraying someone is that they no longer trust you. This is insane. You're punishing kids because your feelings got hurt. I'm teaching adults that stealing $25,000 and abandoning a family member has repercussions. We didn't steal anything. You gave us the money for a family vacation, which, by definition, includes family. Silence except for Helen's voice in the distance, saying something about this being a disaster. Ethan tried a new tactic. "Dad, look, maybe we didn't handle things well yesterday, but we need to fix this now. Can you just call the resort and—" "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I mean the word no, Ethan. It's what you should have heard yesterday, when you told me to just go home and miss my grandchildren's vacation. This is crazy. You're acting like some vindictive—" I hung up. The living room was perfectly still after Ethan's shouting. Outside, a blue jay landed on Carol's old bird feeder. I looked at my notes. Threats, insults, admissions of financial trouble. Zero apology. My phone immediately rang again, Florida number. I turned it off and finished my coffee, watching the bird peck at the seeds with purpose. Some lessons had to be learned, not taught. I looked at my notepad where Ethan's threats were written in stark black ink. "You're going to regret this, old man." The words were even uglier on paper. Carol's reading chair was empty by the window, the afternoon sun warming the cushions she had picked out decades ago. I could almost picture her there, hands in her lap, waiting for me to figure out the right move. What would you do, Carol? But I knew. Carol never let anyone walk over her. She'd built a career in city planning by standing up to developers who thought women should just take notes. "Sometimes people mistake kindness for weakness," she used to say. "Don't let them make that mistake with you, Arthur." I had been kind to Ethan his entire life, paid his college tuition when he struggled, co-signed his first apartment lease, covered his mortgage during 3 different career changes, funded vacations, school supplies for the grandkids, medical bills, when Chloe needed surgery, all of it interpreted as weakness. My office felt different now, like a command center where critical decisions were made. I opened the file cabinet Carol had so perfectly organized. A folder labeled Family Financial Support held 2 decades of generosity. Bank statement showing transfers to Ethan's mortgage lender. Receipts for Olivia's piano lessons and Leo's. Baseball gear. Medical bills I'd paid when Helen needed knee surgery. Birthday checks. Christmas gifts disguised as loans he never repaid. $52,000 last year alone. I found David Vance's business card tucked behind Carol's emergency contacts. Vance & Associates, Estate Planning and Family Law. We'd worked together after Carol passed, and he'd handled her affairs with a precision that made a terrible time bearable. David understood family obligations. He would also understand when they became exploitation. My investment portfolio was in the bottom drawer, statements showing the careful growth of 45 years in architecture, real estate, retirement funds, stock. Options from firms I'd consulted for after retiring. Ethan had no idea the scale of what he was about to lose. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across my desk. Somewhere in Florida, my son was likely still trying to find a room, still believing this was just a temporary tantrum he could manipulate his way out of. He was about to learn the difference between temporary and permanent. I reached for the phone, David's card in my hand. The numbers felt like coordinates for a destination I had been avoiding for years. Justice was not the same as revenge. Carol had taught me that, too. Revenge was emotional and messy. Justice was clean, proportional, and educational. Ethan wanted to be difficult, perfect. I'd spent 4 decades in negotiations with men who thought an architecture degree made you soft. None of them made that mistake twice. The phone rang. Vance & Associates. How may I direct your call? David Vance's office. This is Jennifer. This is Arthur Miller. I need to schedule an urgent meeting with David regarding my estate plan. The appointment was for tomorrow afternoon. I slept better that night than I had in years, waking up refreshed for the drive into Manhattan. David's office was on the 20th floor of a glass tower overlooking Central Park, all polished stone and dark wood, the kind of place that charged by the minute and delivered results that were worth it. Arthur, come in. David stood to greet me, his handshake firm. At 55, he had the quiet confidence of a man who spent his days solving complex problems. I sat in the leather chair across from his desk and laid out my evidence: bank statements, receipts, the threatening texts, my notes. From the call. "What's going on?" David asked, picking up a legal pad. "My son has shown me his true colors. I need to protect myself from his greed." The story came out in order: the planned vacation, Ethan's betrayal at the airport, the canceled resort, the 62 frantic calls, and the ugly threats when he realized he couldn't control me. David took notes, asking pointed questions that showed his expertise in family law. "How long has this financial support been happening?" 20 years, at least. "I have records going back to his first home, and the threats were specific." I wrote them down exactly as he said them. I slid my notepad across the desk. "You're going to regret this, old man. Actions have consequences." David read the notes, his expression hardening. "Arthur, this is textbook financial coercion. In New York, that provides solid grounds for disinheritance with legal protections against any challenge. Meaning? Meaning, if you decide to change your will, we can make sure it's structured so that any attempt by Ethan to contest it will fail." The relief was a physical sensation. "I want him cut out completely," I said. "Everything I've built should go to organizations that will actually do good." With it, David opened his computer. "Let me show you the options. We can draft a new will with charitable beneficiaries and include specific language explaining why Ethan is being excluded." For the next hour, we discussed the details. The Queen's Children's Education Fund would receive the bulk of the estate. Architecture scholarships at Columbia University would get a large endowment. Local senior centers, community programs, veterans groups, causes that mattered. "The documents you have show a clear pattern of financial exploitation," David said, looking over my statements. "Combined with the threats, we have an ironclad case for disinheritance. How long will it take?" "I can have the papers ready to sign next week. We'll need witnesses, a notary, and I suggest a video recording of the signing to document your state of mind. Whatever is necessary." David leaned back, studying me to make sure I understood the gravity of the decision. "Arthur, this is permanent. Once this is done, it will fundamentally alter your family dynamic." "They altered it first," I said. "I'm just making it official." "And you're sure about this? No reservations about the grandchildren?" I thought about Olivia and Leo, their innocent faces at family dinners I'd funded, birthday parties I'd paid for. The children will be better served by scholarship programs than by inheriting money their father would mismanage. David nodded, satisfied. "Then let's move forward. I'll prepare comprehensive documents that exclude Ethan entirely and protect your final wishes from any legal challenge." We shook hands, his grip conveying professional competence. "I'll call you when everything is ready to be signed." Walking through the marble lobby, I felt lighter than I had in years. The law was on my side. Justice was coming, and Ethan would finally learn that actions do in fact have consequences. The elevator descended 20 floors as I processed what had just been set in motion. Legal protection was on its way. Real permanent consequences for Ethan's betrayal. That week passed in a peaceful quiet I hadn't realized I was missing. Morning walks, afternoon reading in Carol's chair, simple dinners without having to coordinate with anyone. No more checking my phone for updates from Ethan about travel plans. Just orderly days while David drafted the legal framework that would change my future. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. David's office. "Arthur, the documents are ready. Can you come in on Monday to sign?" "Absolutely. Just confirming you remain committed to this course of action more than ever." Monday morning, I was back in David's Manhattan office. This time, his secretary, Ms. Garcia, and a paralegal named Kevin were in the conference room with notary stamps and official papers laid out. "This is a formal will execution," David explained. "Everything must be witnessed and notarized to guard against future contests." The new will was open on the table. 23 pages of legalese that turned my anger into a permanent legal reality. Page after page detailed the exclusion of Ethan Miller from all inheritance and the establishment of charitable trusts. "Let me read the key clauses aloud," David said, his voice formal and serious. "The testator, Arthur Miller, being of sound mind and body, hereby excludes his son, Ethan Miller, from all inheritance due to a demonstrated pattern of financial exploitation and threatening behavior." The words felt solid, final. Furthermore, the testator designates the following charitable organizations as primary beneficiaries. David read through the list we had created. The Queen's Children's Education Fund would get $400,000. Columbia's Architecture Scholarship Fund would receive $300,000. Senior Services, Veterans Aid, Community Programs. Ms. Garcia adjusted her glasses. "Mr. Miller, do you fully understand these provisions?" "Yes. And are you signing this will of your own free will without coercion?" "Completely." Kevin turned on a video camera on a tripod. "For the record, please state your name and the date." "Arthur Miller, May 25th, 2025. And you are executing this will of your own volition." "I am." My signature was steady on the documents, each stroke deliberate. Ms. Garcia and Kevin signed as witnesses. The notary seal made a satisfying thud as it pressed into the paper, making everything official under New York law. "The original will be kept in our secure vault," David said, giving me sealed copies. "These are for your records." "When do you think they'll find out?" "That's entirely up to you." I tucked the envelope under my arm. It felt like a shield. "Their flight gets in on Thursday. They'll probably want a family meeting to discuss what happened." David nodded. Family meetings after a crisis usually reveal everyone's true colors. Outside, Manhattan buzzed with its usual energy. The drive home over the Brooklyn Bridge offered Carol's favorite view of the skyline. She would have approved. It was clean, legal, proportional justice. Ethan had made his choice at the airport. Now he would have to live with it. 2 weeks had passed since David locked the final documents away. In that time, I had rehearsed this moment. David and I had confirmed the flight information and prepared for the confrontation. Now, standing beside him in the International Arrivals Hall at JFK, I felt a calm resolve. "Flight 816 from Key West has landed," David said, checking his phone. "They should be through customs soon." The leather portfolio under his arm held the papers that would complete this chapter. 3 weeks of planning and legal work all came down to this. Passengers started emerging through the automatic doors. Tanned families wearing sun hats, couples with duty-free bags, business travelers on their phones. Then I saw them. Helen appeared, first talking animatedly to Frank. She still had an airline tag on her hat and carried a bag that said Key West on the side. Frank followed, pulling 2 large suitcases, looking tired. Behind them were Chloe and the children. Olivia had a toy ukulele, and Leo wore a necklace of plastic seashells. Both kids looked sleepy but happy, searching the crowd. Ethan came last, looking at his phone, trying to reconnect to his world. His floral shirt was untucked, and he had the relaxed posture of a man who thinks his troubles are over. Then Olivia saw me. "Grandpa!" She ran toward me, the ukulele bouncing at her side. Leo was right behind her. "Grandpa Arthur, we missed you. Wait till you hear about the dolphins." I knelt to hug them, their small arms wrapping around my neck with pure, uncomplicated love. For a second, the gravity of what was about to happen felt immense. But then I looked up and saw Ethan's face. He had frozen mid-stride, his vacation calm vanishing as he took in the scene. His eyes darted from me to David, in his business suit, with the portfolio. "Dad," Ethan's voice was wary, "what are you doing here?" "Welcoming you home," I said, standing and gently guiding the children to my side. "How was the trip?" Chloe was at Ethan's side now, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm as she noticed David. Helen, still oblivious, kept chattering. "Arthur, what a lovely surprise. Wait till you hear about the barbecue we had, and the resort had this incredible breakfast." "Helen," Frank said quietly, his practical mind sensing the tension. "Maybe we should—" David stepped forward. "Mr. Ethan Miller." His voice was formal, cutting through the terminal noise. Ethan's face paled under his tan. David extended a sealed manila envelope. "Mr. Ethan Miller, this is a copy of your father's revised last will and testament, executed on May 25th, 2025. Ethan's hand shook as he took the envelope. The airport sounds faded as everyone's attention fixed on the document. "What is this?" Chloe whispered, reading the law firm's return. "Address." Ethan broke the seal with jerky motions. He unfolded the papers and started to read, his eyes flying across the text. I watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief and then to horror as he reached the paragraphs on disinheritance. "This isn't real," he said, his voice a choked whisper. Chloe leaned over his shoulder, reading the same words, her face draining of color. "Arthur," she said, trying to sound reasonable, "surely we can talk about this. Think of the children. They're your grandchildren." "I did think about them," I replied calmly. "That's why I paid $25,000 for their Florida vacation." Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes blazing with the fury of a man watching his life's plan disintegrate. "You can't do this to us. I'm your son." "Yes," I said. "The son who left me stranded at an airport and then threatened me." Helen, finally realizing something was terribly wrong, stopped talking. "Arthur, what's going on?" Frank took her arm. "Helen, let's give them some space." But Ethan wasn't interested in space. "This is impossible. You can't just disinherit family. There are laws." David spoke with professional calm. "Actually, Mr. Miller, New York probate law fully supports your father's right to distribute his estate as he wishes. The documentation is airtight." "I'll fight it in court." Ethan's voice was rising, drawing stares from passers-by. "This won't stand." "Please do," I said. "David has prepared for that. The video recording of my competency evaluation will be very persuasive for any judge." Chloe was still reading the documents, her practical mind adding up the losses. "The house, the investments, everything?" "Everything," David confirmed. "The Queen's Children's Education Fund and the Columbia Architecture Scholarship Fund are now the primary beneficiaries." Ethan crumpled the papers, then smoothed them out again, as if that could change the words. "This is insane. You're throwing away your family over one stupid misunderstanding." "One stupid misunderstanding?" My voice was steady. "Ethan, you took $25,000 from me, cut me out of my own grandchildren's vacation, and threatened me when I objected. That's not a misunderstanding. That's betrayal." Olivia tugged on my sleeve. "Grandpa, why is Daddy yelling?" I looked down at her worried face and felt a deep sadness. These kids would grow up not understanding that their own father's greed had cost them their future. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that have very big consequences," I told her softly. Ethan's desperation grew. "We'll get lawyers. We'll prove you were coerced, that you're not of sound mind." David opened his own portfolio and handed Ethan a business card. "I'd be happy to provide your father's competency documentation to any attorney you retain. Be warned, frivolous lawsuits can become very expensive." The family stood there, surrounded by their vacation luggage, the happy memories of the keys already poisoned. Helen looked from face to face, still not grasping the scale of it all. Frank, however, understood. His practical mind knew when the numbers spelled disaster. "Ethan," he said quietly, "maybe you should have thought about the consequences." Ethan turned on his father-in-law. "Don't you lecture me. This affects all of us." "No," I said firmly. "This affects the people who broke my trust. Your children are blameless. That's why I've set up scholarship funds that will help children just like them for generations to come." David closed his portfolio with a snap. "Gentlemen, our business here is done." He turned and walked toward the exit. I followed, leaving Ethan's family to face their new reality. Behind me, I could hear Ethan's voice, still calling after us, still trying to bargain, still unable to grasp that some consequences are irreversible. The walk through JFK's halls felt different this time. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a confused and heartbroken old man. Now I walked beside my lawyer, a man who had reclaimed his dignity. David and I were quiet during the elevator ride to the parking's garage. "That went exactly as we planned," David finally said as we got to his car. "Better," I replied. Ethan showed his true character. No court would overturn a will after hearing those threats. The drive home took us over the Brooklyn Bridge as evening fell. The city lights glittered on the water in a way Carol had always loved, and I felt her presence, approving. "You know they'll try to fight it," David said as we drove through Queens. "Let them. Every lawyer they talk to will tell them the same thing. The documentation is airtight." David pulled into my driveway as the porch light came on. The house looked the same, but everything felt different now that justice was done. We shook hands. "Thank you, David. You made this happen. You did the hard part, Arthur. Standing up for yourself took courage." After he left, I unlocked my door and stepped into the quiet of my home. The familiar smell of old books and the steady tick of Carol's grandfather clock welcomed me. In the kitchen, I made a simple meal, scrambled eggs and toast. The evening light slanted through the windows as I ate, illuminating the family photos. On the mantel, Ethan's college graduation, his wedding, pictures of the grandchildren. They were still family, but now the sight of them didn't sting. My favorite armchair was waiting for me. I settled into it with a cup of tea, looking out at the garden Carol had designed. The last few weeks had transformed me from a victim into an advocate. Carol would have been proud of the man I'd remembered how to be. My phone was on the side table, turned off since I left the airport. No doubt Ethan was trying to call, still thinking he could negotiate his way out of this. But some lessons can only be learned the hard way. The charities would get my call. Tomorrow. The Queen's Children's Education Fund, Columbia's Architecture School, the Senior Services Program. My money would fund piano lessons for kids whose parents couldn't afford them. It would buy textbooks for deserving students. It would provide meals for seniors forgotten by their own families. Real good in the world instead of more vacations I wasn't invited to. The sun set behind the trees, painting my living room in shades of gold. Somewhere across the city, Ethan's family was grappling with their new reality. Helen would be confused, Frank quietly pragmatic, Chloe calculating the damage, and Ethan would be learning that actions truly do have consequences. I finished my tea as darkness fell. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight I sat in my own house, surrounded by the quiet dignity of a man who had reclaimed his life. Justice had been served. It was enough. It was perfect. And it was finally mine. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let us know what you thought in the comments. To hear another story, click on the video to your left. Thanks for listening.